Shady boss lies about me to coworkers. I have her fired and in department for several years after. First up, the obligatory on mobile warning. English is not my first language, etc. etc. I have been lurking around here for quite some time, and wishing I had a good story for you, until suddenly I realized I do. This happened back in 2011-12 when I was the ripe old age of 19 years old. This is a long one, so do strap in. I got a part-time job at a fast food place specializing in subs. Not Subway, but very similar. When I was 17, it was located in the town's mall, and was fairly busy. It's a national chain where I'm from. When I started there, the owner at the time was really nice, and she started that branch in my town. She was very strict on following all the cleaning requirements and took real pride in her shop. The way it was set up financially was that the franchise taker basically had to work from open to closing, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., to even have a chance at making a decent living, and preferably only have one part-timer helping for a few hours when it was at its busiest. It's like the MLM of fast food. Why anyone would take on such a business wager is beyond me. But I digress. However, this owner actually managed to make money off it. A year or so after I started, the owner decided she would move to a different part of the country and sell her branch and have someone else take over. That lucky individual was my coworker, who was 3 years older than me. From now on, boss lady. She had worked there since it opened and was the natural choice to move up the ladder, because she didn't have the money to pay for the share in the franchise, about $5,000, and nobody else was willing to pay that and have to work their ass off for minimal revenue. HQ allowed her to take over while they bought the old owner out, and HQ kept the share. Now, boss lady had no idea how to run a mile, much less a business. And small things started happening quite soon after she took over. I would normally work there after school, by myself, but she would often hang around the mall when she had finished work. Boss lady always complained about how little money she made, and would often come by when me or the other part-timers were working and tell us to give her $20 minus $100 right out of the register. Considering total daily sales never reached more than about $1,200. That was a lot. I barely made $12 per H. So my motivation was too low to care, and neither did the rest of the part-timers. So we complied and gave her the money. My spider sense was tingling a bit, telling me it was fishy to grab money right out of the register, even if she was the owner. But if she wanted to dig her own grave, that was fine by me. I was friends with boss lady and we would hang out, and often hung out on the weekends. And we worked Saturdays together, which meant we would go out on Friday nights, get shit-faced and work the next day hungover. Oh, to be young. I would only go out during the weekends and never missed a day of work, no matter how hungover I was. And Saturdays were the only days I would be hungover. Besides school and work, I was in a dance company, and had dance classes every day, mostly after 7 p.m. But a few days I had them earlier and couldn't work no matter what. This is important. Every night we would count the register, leave $100 and change in small bills for the next day, and deposit the rest in a safe at the mall. I'm not entirely sure, because it's been a long time, but I do believe boss lady would tell us to take the difference out of the $100 for the register, somehow believing the money would magically show up the next day. After a while we started having problems with the distributors. We were not allowed to order on credit, and had to go to the bank to pay the bills in person, etc. After that, things started getting really weird, and boss lady refused to let us make the cash deposits at night, insisting that we put the money bags in one of the cabinets inside the shop, which after a month or two culminated to a lot of cash. We had also had trouble a few months with getting paid on time, since I worked the most out of all the part-timers. I had the biggest salary, and the people who administered pay decided to pay the smaller checks first. This girl had bills to pay, so that did not sit well with me. I was also the hardest worker out of all of us, boss lady included. Then one lovely Tuesday while I was at school, one of the other part-timers asked me to cover her shift, to which I said I wasn't able to because not only did I have back-to-back dance classes, I also had a paper to write for school. Later that night I get a text from the girl saying, if you were hungover you could have just said so. You don't have to lie. And I'm like, excuse me? I don't drink on school nights. And there's no way I would have had the time to do so last night with dance class right after work and working on my paper. To which she just answered, yeah sure. Boss lady told me you were out last night. The funny part is, this was a fairly small town, so there were nowhere to go on weeknights. So even if I wanted to break my own rules and party on a school night, I couldn't. This really pissed me off, and figured I would stop playing nice and saving boss lady's ass. The revenge. One day out of the blue, during summer, boss lady declared she was going to go on a last-minute, 2-week vacation to the States, and told me to take care of the shop while she was gone. I said fine, but would like more notice next time. I also asked her how she paid for it, considering she wasn't able to take out any salary from the shop. And she just said, oh, I had some savings. I just thought, that's weird considering you actually don't make money. But didn't say anything. The first day I was in charge, HQ called, and the conversation went like this. HQ guy, hey, is boss lady around? Quote, me, no, she took a last-minute vacation to the States and put me in charge. Didn't she tell you? Quote, HQ guy, no, she did not indulge that information. But maybe you can help me. Do you know what happened to all the cash deposits from the past few months? Quote, me, yeah, they're in one of the cabinets here. Boss lady told us not to deposit them. She even yelled at me when I was about to, because I felt really uncomfortable knowing we had what must have been more than $15,000 lying around in the shop, and gave me an excuse about having to look them over. HQ guy, are you serious? Quote, me, sure am. What should I do? Quote, HQ guy, I know the previous owner is in town. Maybe you can call her and ask if she can come help you? She knows what's what, and please deposit all the cash today. Quote, me, sure, no problem. I will look over all the cash bags to see how much there actually is and make sure they're all there and deposit them ASAP. And we hung up. I called the old owner and told her what was up, and she sounded really surprised and was there within 10 minutes. Together we quickly looked over all the cash, but didn't count it. They were in these little pouches that had a form on the front where you filled in how many of each bill and coin was in it. So we figured the right amount would be in each bag. They weren't sealed, because boss lady had told us not to seal them before putting them in the cabinet. I then put them all in a bag and discreetly made my way over to the safe where we deposited them. It was on the other side of the mall, and the mall was open, so my heart was racing. I felt like everyone knew I was carrying a shitload of cash. The old owner started asking me if we kept up with the cleaning requirements, and I answered truthfully that boss lady never told us to do any of the time-consuming stuff, like the ice cube machine, saying that we would have to do that after closing and she didn't have the money to pay us for the extra hours, so she said would do it on the weekends herself. Old owner just shrugged and told me she had to leave, since I was all alone in the shop and it was fairly quiet. I started looking around for things to clean. This was around 4 p.m. I quickly realized that she had never cleaned anything like she said she had. Under the fridges and workbenches there were layers of dirt. The water tank in the ice cube machine was green with algae. The cooling fans in the refrigerators were covered in mold. I started cleaning, but quickly realized this would require my full attention. so I closed the shop early. I called the old owner and she supported my decision and called the mall manager for me to let them know what was up. I have never cleaned that much in my life. I scrubbed everything. I pulled all the refrigerators out and scrubbed thoroughly behind everything. What took the longest was the ice cube machine. I wasn't done until 11 p.m. that night. Being the petty bitch I am, and being pissed boss lady went on vacation with a shop in the state it was. I took pictures of everything before I started cleaning and sent them all to the food safety agency, telling them that nothing had been cleaned for over a year. I also got to clock all the hours I spent cleaning, getting an okay from HQ guy. Looking back now and seeing how little I was paid, I would have just not cared. But at the time I was afraid people would get sick and die from eating the food. The next day I called the old owner and all the part-timers asking them to meet at my place saying, we needed a staff meeting without boss lady and now was the chance. They all came and we started talking, telling me what boss lady had done when they were working together and other things they had observed her doing. I took notes, and later that night I wrote a 7-page document listing all the things we knew she did wrong, and how we suspected she was stealing money from the shop, etc. And I emailed it directly to HQ guy. He emailed me back saying he would look into it. HQ guy called me a few days later thanking me for notifying him about all the things she was doing, and told me that when the cash was registered the amount listed on the form and the amount in the pouches wasn't the same, and asked me if I knew where it had gone. A light went off, and I realized that savings boss lady had used to pay for her trip was actually money she had taken from the pouches, and that's why she wouldn't let us seal them. I told him as much and he said he would dig a little. When boss lady came back from vacation, she seemed very stressed. I acted like nothing had happened when she was gone, but chuckled when she opened the cash cabinet and saw that all the money was gone. And her face turned so white she was almost see-through. But she said nothing. She was in the back most of the day on her phone and came out asking me if I could cover for her the next few days as she had to go to HQ for a last-minute meeting. HQ was 8 hours away. I agreed and went home. Over the next few days I was seething with excitement to find out what happened. When she came back she tried to play it cool and said, I've decided to quit. I feel like doing something different, so I'm just working until the end of the month, and then I'm leaving. And I just acted sorry and oblivious. I knew the old owner was kept in the loop by HQ, and she told me what really happened. Boss lady had met with HQ who had questioned her about the missing money and lack of cleaning, etc. There was more, but this is already longer than the Bible. She had denied it all at first, trying to pin it on us, and saying she had suspected someone was stealing the money and that's why she didn't deposit it, etc. But eventually broke down and admitted it all. She was then given the option of quitting and paying them back all the missing money in installments or having charges pressed against her. She obviously chose the former. Personally, I would have pressed charges no matter what, but they wanted to help her out because I guess they understood she was in a bit of a tough situation with not making any money on the shop, and also didn't want it blow up in the media. I kept working there for a few more months, but quit because I found a job that paid more. Word spread about what boss lady had done, so she really struggled to find a new job to pay what she owed. Since no one trusted her, she eventually did, but had to pay them back for several years later. We did not keep in touch. Guess she shouldn't have lied about me to my coworkers. And I'm all out of breath. TL. Doctor. Shady boss lies to my coworkers about me being too hungover to cover their shifts. I tell HQ about all the shady stuff she's doing and she loses her job and has to pay them back the money she stole for several years, and lost her good reputation. I'm glad you figured it out. Did the health department ever come by to investigate? As someone who eats fast food sometimes, definitely more than I should. Thank you for caring about your customers and taking the cleanliness of the shop seriously. Boss lady had no idea how to run a mile, let alone run a business. I love that line. Excellent revenge up. Sounds like it was well deserving. I always wonder how long people who pull these scams think it'll continue on for. All the lies and deceit end up in stress and you can't even enjoy your ill-gotten gains. Bloody hell, I would have had her charged. Serves herself right. Prosecuting employees is bad for business, even when they've been caught doing blatant things. Embezzlement and major health code violations. They could have been sued out the ass if someone had gotten sick from all of the mold mixed in with the ice machine. To think none of this would have ever been found out if she hadn't been a lying bitch behind your back. Though at the rate she was embezzling money, the shop would have been forced to close eventually. So who knows?
Mr. Sub.
You, FT King, legend. Surprised that HQ didn't offer you a shot at the franchise, unless you were a minor at the time. Knowing what you do about the financials. Probably good they didn't. Thanks for sharing. Impressed with your conscientiousness even when the ship was sinking. A year or so after I started, the owner decided she would move to a different part of the country and sell her branch and have someone else take over. And, HQ guy, I know the previous owner is in town. Maybe you can call her and ask if she can come help you? She knows what's what, and please deposit all the cash today. Quote, did she move back or did she cancel her move? Was she just visiting during this coincidental time? How did HQ guy know where she was? Did he provide her number or did her old number from over a year prior still won't work? You barely made $12 per hour in 2011? I can't even read past that. This is totally unbelievable. $12 per hour in 2011 was good pay for a sandwich maker. You're either entitled as hell or you made this up. This reeks of fiction writing in a sub that's all about real stories. If it weren't for the $12 minimum wage, I'd have guessed Mr. Sub in Canada. Sadly, no province in Canada had a minimum wage that high in 2011-2012. So, you only reported embezzlement and major health hazards because she lied about you being hungover? If she hadn't done that, you would have let things continue on? You would have covered for her when HQ guy called? Or is this not actually revenge? Because you're doing what you should have done regardless of circumstances. She done fucked up. Maybe I'm a piece of shit person. I've never stolen a thing in my life. But I'm kind of surprised Op didn't pocket a few extra dollars out of the unsealed money bags after everything she'd been through and getting paid min wage. Proud of you for staying ethical, but you deserve so much better. Just out of curiosity, is this shop something with a mystery in it?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.